What's up, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Seams, where we bring hitters and pitchers together to talk about the game so it can grow. I'm really excited about this episode. You're going to love it. Let's keep going. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Inside the Seams, where we bring hitters, pitchers together to be able to talk about baseball and softball so we can actually grow the game and grow together. I'm really excited for this episode. Got one of my favorite human beings and one of my best friends on this one, so it makes me biased. I don't care if I'm biased because I know that it's going to be awesome. So John is off having an awesome break with his wife. They're celebrating her birthday, I believe, so he's off hanging out. So I told him, hey man, we got you. Don't worry about it. Just take some time. He's been grinding like crazy, working 7 days a week for 3 or 4 months, and he needs a little bit of a break. So he's actually Josh Hader's thrown a bullpen with him this week, so we'll be sure to ask him about that next week and how that went and all that stuff, because that dude is filthy. So really excited about that. But I got my man Jacob Gwynne on here, man. I love this dude with everything in me. Some of y'all might know him as Yes Training on Instagram and YouTube and all the stuff. And so, man, here's the thing. I've known Jacob for a little bit, and man, one of my favorite things about him is just his authenticity and just how he walks that way, right? And how he talks is actually how he walks, and I think his walking brings out his talking, right? So when you guys hear me talk about that a lot, like he's one of the examples that's in my head. And so we got to know each other through a group that we kind of put together, and after that we quickly realized that it was going to be a friendship for us. And so, man, this guy is tremendous. He's got a tremendous story just in general, and then he's had a tremendous baseball journey. He's doing some incredible things. He's about to he's doing some really cool things with his career, and also really just gonna kind of change the shape of how baseball is done in this country. That's not an exaggeration. Those are the things he's working on, and so I'm so excited for y'all to get to hear him and just listen to his genuine wisdom and his passion and all the stuff. So, man, Jacob, dude, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad we get to do this. And man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Incredibly excited to have the opportunity to do this. When you reached out to me and asked me if that'd be something I was interested in, jumped on it immediately. So any chance I get to be just in conversation with you, my friend, is an absolute blessing. Whether that's with life, baseball, hitting, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly thankful for you, and thank you for the love there. As you guys know, obviously, if you're on this podcast, just how authentic and incredible of a human being Cameron is. Um, Brings people together, loves on them, challenges them in ways that not a lot of people do nowadays. So, incredibly thankful for our relationship and excited for the conversation that this is going to turn into and the insight we're going to be able to dig into
Yeah, man.
here in the next hour. So,
I love it, man. Well, and what's so cool is that, I was kind of talking to Jacob about like, hey, this is kind of the format. You guys know there's not a lot of format, so the conversation wasn't very long. Um, but like what I was telling him, I said, man, like what I love about our podcast and what we try and do is it's just regular conversations that we normally have, and we just capture them. That's really it. And so these what you're going to hear in these conversations and what you hear with me and Zing all the time is like these are just normal conversations for us, and it's incredible, right? Sometimes we just call this a Thursday, right? Jacob will call me and we'll just get on the phone for a Thursday, like just a random call, right? And so it's just a very cool, authentic relationship. And so, yeah, I'm just excited that everybody else gets to share in it, because sometimes we've had conversations we're like, man, that really could have helped some other people, because I know it really helped me. And so now I'm really glad that it gets to be there, and that's it, man. Because Jacob's a gem. I met a lot of people, and there aren't very many people in the world like him. So y'all get the benefit of listening to him and benefiting from the friendship and relationship I have with him, and take it. I'm good with it. So, yeah, man. So, man, dude, for people that don't know about you, or anything like that. What's kind of your story, right? What's kind of been your journey to and with baseball and before that, right? So your story's incredible. You tell whatever you want. I'm good with whatever. But yeah, man, what's kind of your story? What like give people some touch points on who you are, what you do, and your journey that you've been through.
100%. Yeah. So right now I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Been here for about 4 years, but go way beyond Atlanta. So grew up in a bunch of different states. Was born in Colorado, grew up in Virginia, moved to Texas, and that's kind of where a lot of my baseball career in terms of high school and collegiate career occurred. Um, and so, grew up playing the game, have always loved the game. There was never a doubt that baseball was what I wanted to do. I was obsessed with baseball, with baseball bats, uniforms, the history, players, cards, anything you can think of. There just wasn't a sport that compared. I played other sports, but it was just there was never a doubt in my mind it was baseball. Um, so I'll kind of fast forward. I played high school ball in Houston, Texas, at Friendswood High School. Had an awesome career there. Got the opportunity to go on and play at Concordia University in Austin, Texas. Little bit about that story and kind of how I got to Georgia and how that unraveled. So 2 weeks after my high school graduation, I'd already committed to go play at Concordia in Austin, and I broke my neck. Did a triple front flip into a foam pit. Didn't hit the side. Didn't hit the bottom. It was a freak accident. Whiplash. Fractured 4 vertebrae in my neck. I hit the foam. Left arm went numb, and hurt a crack. And so turned out I fractured 4 vertebrae in my neck. And guys, I'm lucky to be alive, lucky to be walking. I was a half a vertebrae away from neck down paralysis. Was in a halo for 2 weeks where the doctor really told me I had like a 30% chance to turn my neck normal again. And ended up having surgery, getting some vertebrae fused, and was in a neck brace for 14 weeks. So at that point, I knew my freshman year of college was pretty much shot.
Mhm.
So was kind of taking it as a gap year. It was like, hey, just really want to, obviously recover and heal, and then kind of take a look at, what direction do I want to go? And so the two things that I was am super passionate about has to do with just discipleship and loving on young men and women, but then also coaching and instruction. So through a series of reaching out to different organizations, different people, doing a lot of online searches, I found a contact in Atlanta, Georgia, named Kirk Doyle, and drove down here. Didn't know a single soul in Atlanta, and Kirk gave me the opportunity to train with some of his teams that he had in the area, train with some of his players. Then he actually trained me. Ended up getting my opportunity to play college. Ended up going back to Concordia. Got cleared, fully recovered. Had a 4-year career there. Loved it. Opportunity just to make some of the best friends. And have some really incredible experiences, compete for conference championships, regional championships, and fight to get to World Series. Just a really, really great career there. But every summer I would come back to Atlanta and train as a player, missionary, coach. And then I graduated in 2020. So my senior year was a COVID year. Had the opportunity to, declare for a 5th year, get that extra year. Or to go ahead and hang up the cleats. At that point, was suffering some injuries that had been nagging for a while, and really, needed surgery on my wrist, and they were not doing non-essential surgeries, which at that day and time in hospitals, a wrist surgery, so a 23-year-old could play baseball just wasn't quite essential, compared to what other people were dealing with, and so I ended up going ahead and hanging up the cleats. Had a lot of other friends that went on and played that 5th year and had a great experience. I hung them up knowing that I was going to stick around the game for a while. So moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and was the director of baseball operations for a travel ball organization in the Atlanta area. It was a great experience in some ways. In other ways, it was very challenging. It really opened my eyes to working full time to see the youth baseball culture and the travel baseball culture kind of for what it was. I saw the good and the benefits of it, and I saw a lot of the negative. I saw a lot of the things that that really today when people ask me what I think about the baseball culture, I say it's broken.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't have necessarily used that word in 2020 or 2021, but the more that I got into it, it's just broken. And that's not me calling out organizations. That's not me calling out kids, parents. It is me, and it's not me calling all those out, right? It's like it's not one though. It's a collective effort right now that in the direction that we're going, and was trying to internally take the way that I knew that player development needed to happen, and that I needed to take these kids to the next level, and was trying to implement it in the belly of the beast, and it was hard. It almost broke me, right? And almost it took me to a point where I actually was like, I wasn't coaching the way that I wanted to. Like I was in times coaching out of fear. I was having so many parent conversations where I was working so many hours, and it just wasn't worth it, that I was kind of giving up almost on my passion. It almost broke me. I almost stopped being involved in baseball. I was like, I need to try something else. This is just not it.
Yeah.
But throughout this time, I was working with clients and doing private lessons. That was kind of my supplementary income, and found very quickly that it wasn't necessarily on-field coaching, and it wasn't being the dude that was in charge of a bunch of teams in the management side. But it was in the cage. It was the developmental side of working with players in a cage that I loved and I was passionate about. That was like the one part that I knew, like, I still want to do this. Even if I went and got another job, like full-time job, and just worked with a couple kids, every week in the cage. It's like, I still want to do this. I want to do this for the rest of my life. And so that's when took a step back from the travel ball area, and took a step back from coaching, and that's where Yes Yes Training was born. So if you're listening to this and you've heard of Yes Yes Training, but there was never a face to it, here you go. Hi, I'm Jacob. Yes Yes Training is not even a year and a half old. It's something I started when I was very clear in the direction that I wanted to go with my career. That involved some of the things that I was doing, but was also disconnecting me very much so from a lot of the things that was going on at that time.
Yep.
And so didn't start the Instagram to blow up. Didn't start it for anything like that. I just started it because I wanted to share some of the knowledge that I've been working with some of my guys, and started to grow and got connected with guys in the baseball world like Cam, and a lot of others. And it was kind of in that time where I was in this position where I had been the coach that was very mechanical, and I'd also been the coach that was very mental, and saw that there was a benefit to both, but was kind of like, I need to look at the swing like in a very different way. I'm not even gonna say the swing. I need to look at how I work with people, humans, just differently.
Yep.
And that's when I really got locked in, and kind of changed a lot of the way that I was teaching. I haven't changed like this drastic thing about my like the swing is this whole new thing, and like I'm teaching this crazy new swing compared to what I was teaching. Not necessarily. The whole process has been me finding more ways to communicate with more people, and to look at them as very unique individuals when it comes to their swing, and to be able to see the way that they move and process and all these things, and say, hey, let's try this. Let's think about doing this. And that's been the coolest adjustment with me with Yes Yes Training, is working through that, more on the mental side, and really just looking at it as a very unique individual with the swing. Not, I'm going to see a kid take 5 swings in my cage and say, this is what's wrong here, let's fix this. Well, you do this, and if you do this, this is going to happen, and if you do this, and that's going to happen, so fix this and do that, right? Does that make sense? And just decided to say, like, okay, like I need to see this guy just move and swing, and from there, like just facilitate and ask the right questions and see what happens. So that's kind of me up to where I'm at in the present day, right? I know that was
No, it's great.
kind of going back and talking a little bit more about me. But um, yeah, so there it is. Yeah. So
Great.
to sum that up, right? Texas broke my neck, found Georgia, did travel ball, hates travel ball. Now I'm an instructor. There you go, guys.
That's perfect. I love it. Well, he's along the way, Jacob's found an awesome bride too, who's amazing and super supportive of him as a person and what he does. And I say it this way: if you ever look at any coach that's really good and growing and doing the kinds of things that Jacob's doing, you're often a lot of times going to find a rock behind him as well. It's just so supportive and loves their heart, right? Because if you're doing this right, like we're doing it, you got to have a really good heart. Because I'll say it, most people in this industry either don't choose to act on the goodness in their heart a lot of times, and so it's lonely, right? So Jacob's along that whole thing too. He's found an awesome life partner that just tries to undergird him a lot, and that's not just me saying it. I've seen it up close, and she's awesome too. So that's what's really cool about it. And man, like I think what's so cool about Jacob and his story is one, he absolutely just skated over the how incredibly dedicated and hardworking that he is. Man, like I mean, Jacob's not 6'3" and doesn't have like 110 mile an hour, exit velocity, bat speed, or hand speed, right? But Jacob always had a shot to play wherever he was, and so that those kinds of people, right? In my opinion, you listen to those people more than the people that it was easy for. Everybody goes to the people that it was easy for, but realistically, I mean, I was talking with a guy that played in the big leagues last night, and he was like, and he said this, not me. So y'all, if you don't like it, like that's fine, but like it's not an opinion. He goes, yeah, the best in the world aren't the one can't teach it. He said that, and he works for a huge organization now, like not like a huge like organization within the baseball community. And he said the best can't teach it. He was like, the people that were kind of grinders and had to learn along the way and all that stuff, those are the ones that can teach it. He's like, now the best can tell you about how to stay there and how to stick out and how to do this and how to do those kind of things. But he's like, they don't know how to teach it because they just were able to do it. And so Jacob is one of those people. I'm not saying that he couldn't do it, but like there were things that came easier to other people than Jacob, right? Jacob had to work hard for everything that he did and everything he got. And so he's incredible. Um, with just like what he's learned and what he pours into. And so, man, like where did that, so you were talking about that shift, right? For you, like I would say like I would ask you a two-pronged question with that is, um, when did that start to shift? And then why did that start to shift? Where was your kind of thought process with why that needed to shift? And what are you seeing now as as byproducts of that shift?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So the way that I was teaching was through this through more of a curriculum based teaching where it was a foundation that you kind of gave everybody that everybody used, right? And then you'd take that foundation and you'd start to do some personalizing along the way. But it was, we're going to start off and this is the focus, this is the key, this is the answer,
Mhm.
this is all this, written down curriculum deal. And
Yeah.
for a lot of players it worked, like it did. I would say, if I was working with 10 players, like 4 players would get it.
Hmm.
They'd get it, right? This was really good stuff, right? Focusing on their balance, focusing on, their, the front side staying closed, whatever it might be, right? Like
Yeah.
it helped them. And then there'd be about 2 hitters that would maybe be getting it, but we're not really seeing that much improvement. And then
Mm.
there'd be 3 hitters that I would do all this stuff that I'm saying is proven. They proven curriculum, right? There'd be 3 hitters that it's just like they're getting worse.
Mm.
Like, yeah, okay, maybe some things look a little bit cleaner, but like they're not able to hit it as hard as they were when they came in to see me. And they're not actually able to have as much plate coverage when they have come in to see me. And all of a sudden now I'm working with this kid and we're on lesson 7 or 8. And I'm pulling all this stuff. Like I'm just throwing stuff up against the wall and hope it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not working. And so in my head, I went, look, if I can't effectively communicate and speak different languages
Mm-hmm.
to everyone that comes in my cage, there's something that I'm doing that's wrong. There's something that I'm missing. Um, and so that's when I kind of took a step back and I was like, I want to be able to effectively take those 10 hitters and know when it's time for me to go this direction and when it's time for me to completely disregard that. Right. And go in a whole new direction. So kind of the byproduct of that, like I mentioned earlier, it's like when I see a hitter swing, I almost have to remind myself to like almost like wipe the slate clean and look at it like it's my first time seeing them move. And it's the only and it's their swing. It's like there's no other swing right now in my head that I'm trying to get them to perfectly match or look like, right? Like we all know what it looks like. We want to move, right? But it's like, okay, with this individual, based on what we've seen, what we've tried, like, what do they need to hear today? What do they need to think? What do we need to feel? What do we or need to? What are we going to try to feel? And now I think it's more so like, I used to have most of my hitters were more no stride hitters, right? You come and watch and see guys for me right now, like you're going to see guys start open. You're going to see guys start wide. You're going to see guys start narrow. You're going to see big leg kicks. You're going to see small leg kicks. You're going to see a no stride. You're going to see guys land closed. You're going to see them land with their front foot closed. You're going to see them land with their front foot open. You're going to see the back heel kick back. You're going to see the back heel come up. You're going to see it anchor in, right? Like, because it's more of like this idea of looking at these different like ice cream flavors or paint colors and blending them, right? And finding which blend works for them, right? It's like if I am trying to, it's like, listen, this hitter right now, he needs more blue in his swing. So let's say that blue is more of a forward move, right? And he needs more blue, right? He's stuck back. He's spinny. So we're going to try to give him some blue. Well, in order to create blue, right? Like we need to grab in some different colors, right? And then even the order that we grab those different colors in, like starting with green and then maybe adding in a little bit. I'm blanking on what makes blue right now.
It's fine. It's
Which is really, really funny.
It's all good.
But I'm trying to
It's
do
all
this
that
whole
makes and
analogy.
matches. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
trying to do all this right now. But yeah, it's about like now we experiment with different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm gonna have my hitters actually stride and land open and see what that feels like.
Yes.
I'm gonna have my hitters stride and land closed. It's, hey, I want you to like keep your back heel in the ground here. Hey, I want you to think about like actually rotating your trunk as far as it can go. I want to, and I could keep going on all these things, right? Like for each individual hitter, we're going to try a bunch of different stuff and then finding what works and what doesn't is the biggest thing now. And so I guess like I'm just going to put a bow on this. My job is to try a bunch of different stuff because I need to make hitters a genius about their own swing.
Yes, dude.
Not about the swing or someone else's swing. They need to be a genius about their own swing because if they're a genius about their own swing, they're not going to let someone mess them up.
That's right.
Because they'll hear a coach and they have this filter now of knowing so much about their swing where it's like they hear a coach say something and they can go, huh, okay, yeah, actually, you know what? I think that's a feel that might work, right? Like, let's try that. But they can also hear a coach say something and be like, hey, like in their own head, like, nah, bro, nope, that ain't it.
Yep, that's right.
No, I ain't gonna try to push my back hip further forward. I know
Yeah.
what you're seeing and I know what you're saying, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Or it's like, I know you want me to drive my back knee. So, and then because they're so smart about their swing, they're able to see like, okay, why would he think that I need to do that more?
Mm-hmm.
What is he seeing that maybe I need to feel more, right? And that's just through us trying so many different things. But yeah, it's trying everything to make them a genius about what works for them.
I love that. Well, and I think like what's really cool, right? And it reminded me, I want you to talk about when you went to 108 and they assessed you and like you kind of got to see like where like that. So remind me about that. I don't want to forget it.
Yeah, I will.
But man, like I had a new kid come in last night and he got recommended and he's just an insane athlete. right? And that that's kind of become my rap around here is like help free up athletes, like really top tier athletes, which is really cool. Makes it fun on my part, right? Um, so he walks in and he just looks super robotic. Right. And so like I kind of got the spiel that I give people. It's like, hey, like this is a communication. This is a thing. Like you got to tell me if you don't like something. Like I'm not going to be offended. I know we're in Texas, so like it's yes or no, sir, to everything. But like, listen, like I'm okay if you tell me, hey, this doesn't work. You're actually being more respectful by telling me that it doesn't work than just lying to me by patting me on the head. Right.
Amen.
Every single time you tell a Southern kid that, they're like, oh. Okay. I was like, I promise. I say yes or no, sir, too, right? It's a good thing, but you don't have to pat me on the head. It's okay. Like I'm tough enough to be able to like have a conversation, right? And so, talking about this spiel, and I look at him and I say, hey, all we're gonna try and do through today and going forward is get rid of the stuff that you don't need. That's all we're really trying to do is find all the stuff that's been put in there that doesn't work and isn't right. That's it. That's all we're
Mhm.
going to try and do. And so, like, like anybody else, they come in with a plan. Hey, he needs to do this for more power. Okay, cool. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest. I pretty much never listen to what the thing is at the front end, right? Because it's just like it's probably not that. And I'm watching the swing. And I'm like, it's not that. Right? We'll get there. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I know that, right? We'll get there. And so we're doing all these things essentially, right? Like being able to find out he's a front of the foot guy. If he's a front of the foot guy, he likes hands, right? So we can't be thinking about lower half. So we got to make lower half as simple as possible, as less effort as possible, as just anything, right? And so this starts to happen. That starts to happen. So I've been starting to do this thing. It's really cool to like. I don't have all the motor preferences technology and stuff like that where you can measure all that stuff, but I put guys on yoga blocks, and so I put them like closer, like where their toes are on it and their heels are hanging off then where their heels are hanging off, or heels are on, their toes are hanging off in the middle, kind of to find, hey, where do they hit the ball hardest? And like it was very obvious after two swings, he was a front of foot guy, like very obvious. And so like, but that whole conversation, like towards the end, he was barely talking when he first came in, which is very normal for a 15-year-old. Like that's just what they do. They don't talk. And so like, but by the end, he was auto correcting on things and self correcting on things within 45 minutes to himself. And
So good.
we moved him from this big, huge thing, right? And it's a shift in perspective, right? Of, hey, you're gonna come in and you're gonna learn this from me, right? That's what it's so much of. This is what I do. And it needs to shift to I'm not sure what you need, so I'm not sure what I can do for you yet. I need to learn about you. I need to listen to you. I need to allow you to tell your story and then me to ask questions about your story and then just subtract things away. That's all it was with this kid, right? It was like his hand had to be in a certain position because that's the ideal hitting position and he had to do this. And so his mom was like, "Yeah, he looks like a robot." I was like, "Honestly, that's all I need to know. I don't need to know anything else. Just
Yeah.
that he's a robot. That's it. Well, we're
Yeah.
I'll help with the rest of the stuff, right? But it's like it's not about adding. A lot of times it's subtracting and then highlighting. That's it. And I think like literally this kid is hitting seed rockets and he goes, "I don't need any more power." I said, "No, you don't need any more power." I was like, bro, you just hit the ball over 90 miles an hour. Like, what are you talking about? You don't need anything else. You have it. We got to
Right.
get rid of the stuff that's slowing you down. And the only way I can know that is like he has a huge toe tap. I don't like toe taps because I think they're hard, especially for front of the feet people. You know what I didn't do? I didn't take it away from him
He did it himself.
because it's hit. He wants it. I went at
Yeah.
him. I asked him 4 or 5. I mean, it was like I was grilling him about it. I'm like, look, I'm not sold. It doesn't mean that I'm asking you questions because I'm not sold. You can do whatever you want, but I'm just saying I'm gonna grill you because I'm not sold. And he got to the end, and I was like, all right, I'm in. Like you're sold on it, and all that was me trying to push to see does he actually believe in this, or is this something that somebody else gave him? And so now he's holding
Mm-hmm.
on to it. And he would not move. And I was like, that's so don't let anybody move you off of that ever, because it's really important to you. So it's like now it's subtracting this and subtracting this and then making it easier, making it simpler, making it to where they can do it on their own. He literally looked at me. I've never met this kid before ever in his life. Like first time I met him, like last night, he had just woken up from a nap because they drove in from a while, like a while away, and um, he goes, man, like I could like tomorrow, no matter what happens in practice, I can like fix myself. I was like, because there's less, because there's less.
Mm.
It's not about more, right? It's about let's take away what you don't need and make sure that everything's there, right? Because it's like then he started doing all the things that people love talking about, and I didn't talk about any of it. His hip, his his translation to the ball from his lower half got better. It got more efficient. It got more powerful. It got more of this. But I didn't say anything about it. He doesn't
Yep.
need it. He doesn't need it. He was like, man, my hands felt fast. And I was like, and that's all you need to think about because you're a front of foot guy and you like hands cues. Like, we got to make it so the lower half doesn't get in the way. And man, like,
Mm.
that's where like it's so much easier, right? Like all the drills were there for was to identify to me as the mentor, this is what he doesn't need. He doesn't need this. He doesn't like this. Nope, this isn't it. Nope, this isn't it. Like we haven't found what he likes yet. And we're so busy, and we talk about this all the time. We're so obsessed with finding what's wrong so we can make sure that they come back to us next week or next season. We gotta be able to show them a developmental plan of where they suck and where they gotta get better. It's like, well, listen, they probably are keenly aware, and if they're not, you that's a different kind of conversation. Like, so like it's not about what they're doing wrong because you probably put it there. I have, right? Like the sequencing things that people that have been going around where people are like talking about good stuff, right? Where it's like when you think fire these too far and these get left behind. I did that. I taught that 10 years ago. I taught that 12 years ago. I screwed people up. I guarantee you I did because of it. So I'm first in line. I got the shirt and the pin and the hat and everything. But it's like now the shift has happened where it's like you may not need anything from me. You may just need me to tell you, hey, you're really good the way you are. And like, let's test it. Man, I got a girl, we talk about her all the time. I got a girl, that's mostly my job right now. Like every once in a while we dive deep into it, but most of the time this chick like it's like, hey, what do you like last night? She was just like, hey, can I see spin the whole time? Because I feel like I'm gonna do this, that, and the other. And she's like, I'm good. Like I worked for an hour and a half at school and I'm good. Like that's what we want it to be like eventually, right? Is so key with like is that right? And that so before we talk about the 108 thing, I want you to kind of talk about what you've been doing with your groups and kind of what we were talking about before we started too, with like the communication aspect and what you're seeing with that. So I'll set the stage for you a little bit so you don't have to like explain too much about it. So essentially, Jacob is a master teacher. He is a master communicator, and that's a lethal combination. That's something my dad always told me too. If you can teach it and you can talk about it, you can do whatever you want to whenever you're at. And so he started doing this thing. He did groups. That's nothing new, right? But he started having them talk to each other in the lesson and in the time. And it's been incredible. Like I've got some insider information. He's like been sending me stuff about like what they've been talking about and stuff. And it's like just making me like freaking get so jazzed. But that's what he's doing. And so that's what I'm asking him to talk about. So yeah, Jake, just like take that wherever you want to. Like I just love anything that you were talking about before too. Like it's all game. So I love everybody needs to hear what you're doing with that.
Heck yeah. Okay. So, yeah, it's been really cool. So one thing that I started to do, and this is with any age group, I'm going to talk specifically kind of about like this with some of my older guys, but this is with any age group. I've been doing this with young guys as well. And um, the interesting thing, and this is the big point that I want you guys to hear here. When I've been asking younger guys, and I don't give them any direction about what I want to hear. I'm just like, hey, just give me anything. So like one guy's hitting in the cage, 3 guys are standing off. And I say, after a round of 15, I turn to the guys that are not hitting and I say, hey, what'd you see? The younger the player, they almost always go to something positive that that player is doing right, that they're doing well. The older the player, they almost always go to something that that player is doing that's wrong. Now, this is on us, right? Because we as an industry, we as coaches, we as instructors, we tend to only focus and teach them, and we put that whole entire developmental process, and we're learning new things and trying new things because it's wrong. We're focusing on what's wrong, right? And so through that lens, they only look at others as, what are they doing wrong, instead of trying to work around what they're doing right. And I thought that was fascinating. It basically it proved to me that the only looking for things that are wrong in a swing is taught. It's not learned. It's 100% taught. And these high school players, that's the first thing they always jump to, what they're doing wrong. Now, am I saying that it's bad to, to tell someone, hey, I'm seeing this and I think it could clean up? This is maybe not a great movement that's keeping you from doing stuff. I'm not saying that's wrong. I mean, I'm talking more like guys going like, well, hey, like you're landing close and it's going to cut you off and you're never going to hit an inside pitch that way. Or guys saying like, hey, like your back heel is staying in the ground and you're really losing a lot of power when you're doing that. And all this stuff, like it was in absolutes that these guys were talking about. The older players in absolutes were talking, that's going to hurt your swing, which is wild. Why? Because that's how instructors have been talking to them. They see a movement that the instructor doesn't like, and then they start to talk in absolutes, saying, well, if you do that, this is going to happen. And so we are basically teaching these players that unless they move the way that we tell them to move, it's wrong, and it's wrong for everyone else to do it as well. So the cool thing that I started doing is then I started to actually say, okay, now you have to give me one thing that's right, that you think that you like in your swing, and then give me something that you think they could work on. And that's when the conversation really opened up. And I started to notice a tendency, because I've worked with all these players. When they're focusing on what someone is doing right, it's almost always something that they, whether they're trying to or not, they're focusing on something that they know they do wrong. So when they see someone else do something right, they mentally go, ooh, I like that. Why do they like it? Why does it stand out? Remember, they could be looking at anything. It stands out to them because maybe they know they struggle with it, right? Flip it, right? When I give them, you can look at anything that they're doing in their swing and what's something they could fix. They're going to point out the thing that they know they do well, right? Where it's like, if I know that I control my forward move really well, then it's going to be very obvious to me when he doesn't, right? Or vice versa, or whatever we want to look at, like our stretch, slack. And there's so many different topics we could go into. But once that happened, the guys started to communicate and talk about like, well, like I'm trying to feel this because I used to struggle with this a little bit, but like, okay, like that makes sense. And then you had guys start to chime in and have conversations. And it was wild to hear them talk about their swing. And at first, I'll preface this too. When I first opened up the floor for them to start talking, no one wanted to talk. Like no one wanted to say anything. They were like really shy. And I was like, I'm gonna wait. Like we're gonna talk about it. But I'm gonna wait here as long as I need to make it happen. But here's like the reason that they didn't want to talk had nothing to do with the fact that they didn't know what to say. They knew it, right? They're just never given the opportunity to do it. And so it's new. It's weird.
I don't know
right?
how. Yeah, I don't know how.
They have no idea how to, right? And because either one, they're never asked, or two, they never feel like they're in a space that they can just openly talk about what they're seeing and what they're feeling. As it started to move forward and more guys started talking and feels and all this stuff, like it was incredible to hear the hitting conversation that was going on. And guys were noticing things that were good and things that could be, worked on a little bit that I wasn't even picking up. Right. And so when you have it was literally like there were 5 people in that room that were teachers and coaches. And me as the instructor was just the facilitator of the conversation. I wasn't the head coach. I wasn't the dictator. I wasn't the one that forced language and forced conversation. I was just the lead facilitator that kind of maybe moved some directions in the conversation and asked a few questions that sparked conversation. And the confidence that I saw in the hitters the following round was remarkable. Like the rounds were off the charts. And I'm not talking about how like these incredible movements that weren't there showed up or anything like that. I'm not talking about that, right? That can happen, and it did happen to an extent, but I'm not addressing that specifically. It was like because they were confident in their swing, because their peers had given them confidence in it, right? Had told them, hey, I really like the way you do this, and this is something you can, maybe you can feel to help with this. It was like they were bulletproof mentally. Like when I say it was an incredible round, I'm not talking about like, yeah, we tracked it and he hit 10 line drives out of 11 hits, right? But it was like the misses were confident swings. Like they got their best swing off. They, when they hit a baseball, it wasn't this mentally draining thing that just happened that you're now letting affect your body language and emotions. It was like, just a little bit out front, just came across a little bit. Okay, here we go. Like it was like no big deal. And that's how comfortable they were with being themselves. They weren't trying to be someone else. They weren't trying to, to compare themselves to other guys in the cage. It was like the conversation just completely released any preconceived notion of the way that they should be and helped them be more comfortable in who they are. And I've noticed this, it was very prevalent in the most recent, it happened on Sunday, but I've been doing this for a couple of weeks now with younger guys, and it's been really, really cool to watch. Really cool to watch their intent go up, their confidence go up. It's just it's almost proof to me. It's like I can see four wildly different swings and all of them will play. It has way more to do with the mental mindset and confidence of the person that's making the moves. It makes you look at mechanics and it's like, okay, we truly have to analyze who the person in there is first, right? It's like, okay, hey, you're a coach, you want to talk about swinging down? Great. It's not going to work for everybody. You want to be a coach that talks about knob up? Okay, it's great. Not going to work for everybody because you don't know the person in here yet, right? And that's a clinic, right? Like that's literally, if we truly are talking about development, it's not this proven theory that like my way works for everybody. It's actually my way is really unique because it works for everybody and it works for nobody.
Everything and nothing.
If that makes sense, right? Because it's so uniquely personalized to the individual. And the coolest thing too that I'll rephrase on that is these hitters stopped, and the more they talked, the more they stopped using hitting language that they've heard their whole life.
Yes.
Or like, and if you're, if you coach listening to this and stuff, right? I always I would love to work with like a 13-year-old gymnast who's super athletic and never picked up a bat in their life, right? And to have them take an hour of swings and then to actually ask them like, hey, what did you feel? I guarantee they wouldn't use any of the words that we use. Like, you think the gymnast would talk about staying inside something?
No.
I don't know, right?
No.
Like, do you think they'd talk about staying back? And it's like, I don't think those are the words they'd use. So I'm prefacing that to simply say the hitters started to just basically kind of talk their own language. And then like they had the freedom to start using their own words. That weren't baseball words. They were just thoughts and words that some of them hadn't even used before, said before out loud. But then the minute they verbalized it, it made sense to them, which was wild. All I needed was an atmosphere that allowed them to do so, and it completely changed things.
Crazy,
right? Like
right?
hitters, like I always like to say this too. Like I feel like right now I'm 4 years out of my playing career. I have a way better swing And I think I'm a way better hitter than I was in college
Mhm.
right now. Why? Why do I think that? I'm talking about the swing and hitting every day, right? Like I get to do that for hours every single day. So if we truly do believe that the more that you talk about it and see different swings, see different movers, hear different thoughts, if that's going to make us better as instructors, why in God's name do we think it's not going to make them better hitters? They're
Facts.
the ones that need it more than we do. Their
That's
their
facts.
process is still happening. Like every hitter should, if it doesn't happen in a team setting, go home in front of it. Like talk to mom, talk to dad, talk to yourself in the mirror, verbalize what happened. Just talk about your swing. Talk about what you felt, right? Because I'm a better instructor and a hitter because of it. And my career's over. It's done.
That's
They
so,
need to start talking about their swing
and
and
that's
what they're feeling.
and that's why, in my opinion, and this is and nobody, not everybody's gonna like what I'm about to say, but I say stuff that needs to be said sometimes, right? And it just is what it is. That's why you can make a statement that says the way that people do instruction is more to make the coach feel good than to help the player. And
Mm-hmm.
that is the truth. Because what does the player need? You don't know because you don't know and you don't seek it out. All I do is look at people's actions. Me and Jacob talk about this all the time. Like, great. That was a great poem that you just wrote online and you talked about this and all the great edits that you did. Great. Now, what do you actually, because if you care about that and you put action towards things, you will have those kinds of things. You'll come up with ideas or you'll try this and you'll have those breakthrough moments like what Jacob and it seems like it's this weird concept. It's not, man. Like the best group of hitters I've ever had that was a unit was some of my JUCO guys. And we would all hit it at 10:30, 11 at night and it was incredible, right? There was five of them, sometimes there was seven of them, and all that happened organically, right? Because it's just I was just we were just asking them to be there who they are. Hey man, like what do you see here? Hey man, like what are you watching? Hey man, what do you see in practice? How does this compare to this? Like he and like, dude, this kid is so freaking good, bro. You gotta stop freaking thinking about this. You're so good. And when somebody else pours into you and tells you that, bro, and it's like that should be a natural thing. So all the people that want to complain about stuff, I get it, but you either are a part of the solution that you're complaining about or stop creating it. Because that's
100%. And because
yeah,
we've got like we got like 10 minutes, I want to get into the 108 one just
yeah,
to
do it. Do it, do it, do
keep
it.
us
Yeah,
rocking.
yeah.
Yeah, so got the opportunity to go up to 108 in Knoxville. And go through their assessment, right? Because that was one of the things I was really fascinated with was I saw their assessment mat and I was like, okay, like how do you assess hitters and like stance and landing position and how they move best? And it was described as, look, we're just trying to find the place where the player can optimally and efficiently rotate to all locations, right? To like have optimal plate coverage and can effortlessly, without restriction, move really efficiently and move well.
Mhm.
And so I was like, hey, can I do that? And they were like 100%. So um, I went through it and it was like an hour because Will Marshall, the guy who was facilitating it, was explaining it to me because obviously I'm a coach. And so he wants me to understand also how to teach it, how to do it. So it ended up taking a really long time, but it was incredible. We used a PVC pipe, we used a water bag, and optimally found that when I thought about striding closed with my front foot slightly open and my back foot slightly turned in, that's where I optimally moved from. Where like I could literally rotate from there nonstop, no impingement, nothing in my back that's feeling like it was just the easiest thing ever. Um, and when I tried to keep my feet straight and my toes straight, I moved like crap.
Whoops.
Guys, I couldn't rotate. Like literally, I got a little bit turned. And that's how I was taught to hit, right? Like land even, keep your front foot closed, right? and like the irony behind that is like that was the worst position I moved from. The worst.
Yep.
Like I moved a little bit better when I was even with my front foot open. But it was hammered, front foot closed, right? Land even, stride even. And I moved like crap. So we get to this and I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, like this is the easiest I've rotated. Now, like granted, this is after like 45 minutes of us like shifting my feet in different angles, shifting my strides in different angles, my length in different angles, how far I am away from the plate. It's a whole incredible assessment. So like Cameron said, I was never a power guy. I was never the most talented guy. Guys, I was a middle infielder with below average feet, a below average arm. And I could hit for contact pretty well, but like that was it. What was different was I was gonna bite your ear off when I crossed that line to beat you out. Like I was going to play like the game was outlawed tomorrow. Like if the game was outlawed tomorrow, or literally like government says no baseball, like, and you had to go out in a cornfield with flashlights just so you could toss a baseball around, like I played like that was going to happen tomorrow. And like I am confident saying that about myself. I don't like to talk about myself that much, but I'm confident saying that about myself because that's just the way I played. I wasn't good enough to not play that way. I wasn't that good. I was talented in some areas, but like I was not that good. I had to outcompete everybody on that field. And that's what I just took every day of practice and stuff. All that being said, I was never like averaging exit velos of like 90 to 95, hitting for power. Like I was the guy who was going to slash, hit and run, hit ground balls to the backside, occasionally find a gap, but I was moving runners and doing jobs, right? I was a team guy. So I'm at 108. We had just run through some sessions and I was like, hey, let me take some swings. Kind of feeling this new thing. And guys, off like slow front flips with a wood bat, I maxed out my exit velo right then and there. Right. And I've climbed since then, right? Like I've never hit 93 miles an hour off a tee. I did it the other day, like, which is wild. Like landing closed, front foot slightly open. Up there at that point, it was 90, right? And it was incredible. It was just mind blowing to me that like everything in my like my load, my counter, my forward move, my landing, and then rotating, like all this stuff that we talk about from a mechanical standpoint. Like once I just found my optimal position to move from, I moved better. Wild, right? Isn't that just a crazy concept to think about doing?
Things away, don't add, right?
And so, any coach, I'll say this, right? Because like, I'm not sitting here saying like every player should land closed with their front foot open or anything. But any coach out there that right now that is forcing a stride length or forcing a position for the front foot where it has to go with players, you're gonna miss on some guys, dude. And there's actually gonna be guys that you're not even allowing them to unlock the potential they have, right? Like if they're struggling with their front shoulder flying, or they're struggling with all these basic generic things. Oh, they're struggling with staying inside and their front side's flying open, right? Well, like it's pretty hard for them to optimally move when you just took away their athletic position. Like pretty hard for them to do what they want to do when you just literally said, I'm not going to let you move the way that like you want to.
And then blame
like,
them. And then blame
and
them.
then blame them, right?
Special
like, oh, right. But there's a lot of guys making money off putting cinder blocks behind people's feet and making them stride in a certain position, right? Now, look, I'm not saying you're hurting every kid. Like, there's some kids that you're gonna help by doing that. There's gonna be others though that you're blaming other issues that's going on with the upper body and the lower half,
yep.
and they're happening because they're not moving from a position that they want to move from, that they naturally can move from well. Like for me, if you're a guy that says the front foot always has to be closed, right? Like you may have helped other guys, right? Like obviously that wasn't me, right? There's a reason I couldn't hit the inside pitch my entire career, guys. And it wasn't because my hands weren't quick enough and I didn't rotate like, or I didn't, I couldn't get the barrel there. Like, guys, I was in a bad position to move from. So like take away half the plate. You think that maybe would have changed my career some? Yeah. It would have. I had only half the plate to work with, right? So, there's so much that goes into that, but that was just eye opening to me. That was like, oh my gosh, like this is incredible. That and guys, it's literally just experimenting with different things. And when you allow your players to do it, oh my gosh, you can make it so much fun. Hey, we're gonna take 6 swings, and I literally want you to John Carlos Stanton land closed. Oh, sweet. Okay, awesome. Now, hey, like, look, like I want to see like leg kick, freaking Josh Donaldson, front foot open at a 45. Like, let's go, right? And then you start to try these things and you say, okay, which one did you like more? And they're going to start to be like, well, I like this more, right? And it's like, okay, well, let's blend a little bit of that. And the wild thing is I did this the other day too with the player. His favorite player was Acuna, and he needed a little bit more of a forward move. So I said, booyah, be Acuna, please, right?
Yeah, please.
And then we started to do this Acuna feel where I was like, be Acuna, and things started to look a lot better. It was awesome. And then towards the end of the session, I said, okay, now, like, I want you to think about Acuna as you get in the box, but once you're in the box, I want you to be you. Mm-hmm. Like you're just you. You're not Acuna anymore. You're you. Yeah. And the move showed up. It was really, really cool.
Man, I love that.
But that's absolutely incredible. So yeah, that was my 108 experience.
Yeah, I love that, man. Well, man, like this is incredible. I was just about to text you, but I think we need to do a part 2. Because there's so much stuff that we could talk about and all that stuff, man. I'm telling y'all, I told y'all at the beginning, these are just the regular conversations that we have. Like, I'm serious. So what do we ask? 4 questions? That's it for an hour. Like these are just how the conversations go. And this is how this has to happen. We have to have these kind of conversations. We have to talk. We have to get kicked in the teeth. It has to happen, right? If it doesn't happen, then you're lazy. Sorry, like, and I've been there.
Ooh, who said it? Oh,
I did. I said it. If you're not willing, then you're lazy, right? Like you're lazy.
Let's go.
So, man, dude, I love you, and that was absolutely incredible and amazing because that's who you are, and man, so thank you for being who you are. Thank you for loving this at the level that you do, and just being so willing to share that with people and give it away. And I'm incredibly grateful for you. Your players are, and everybody else is, and everybody that just listened to that freaking gold is thankful for that too, man. So, man, we'll get on part 2. Zing will be.
Yeah, we'll get a part 2 going for sure.
Pumped to be a part of that next conversation. He'll be excited about it, man. So, for all of y'all, that was gold. Make sure y'all listen and go back and listen to it 2 or 3 more times, and all that stuff. So, Jake, you're awesome. We'll get part 2 going. Don't worry, I promise. And we'll get it going. So, Jake, you're awesome, man. I love you, and we'll talk soon.
Love you too. Thank y'all for listening. Excited to be back on.
All right, man. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm sure you were able to get a lot out of that. So because of that, make sure that you share this, right? Make sure that you put it out on social media, on your stories. Make sure that you subscribe, give us a 5-star review, because our passion is to see the game grow, and our passion is to see you become the best baseball or softball player that you can. So go ahead and do that for us, and I can't wait to see you on the next episode.